$66. Read that number again. $66.52. That is the price per ounce of silver as of this morning. Not some wild price target from a newsletter selling you a subscription. Not a speculative projection from a precious metals dealer trying to move inventory. This is the actual verifiable closing price of silver on the world's commodity exchanges. And if you understand what is actually happening beneath the surface of this number, you would not be sitting calmly right now. You would be recalculating every assumption you have ever made about the global financial system. Because what just happened is not a price spike. It is not a short squeeze. It is not retail investors on Reddit pushing a meme trade. What we are witnessing is the mathematical collision of unstoppable demand with immovable supply constraints, and the result is a market in the early stages of total repricing. In 2024, silver closed the year around $29. Today, barely 12 months later, it has more than doubled. That is a 126% gain in a single year. To put that in perspective, gold, the traditional safe haven superstar that has dominated headlines all year, rose about 58%. The S&P 500, the benchmark for American equity performance, delivered roughly 24%. And silver, the metal that Wall Street analysts have ignored and dismissed for a decade, has quietly outperformed them all by a factor of 2, 3, even 5 times, depending on your entry point. The question is not, why did this happen? The question is, why would it stop? Let us establish the foundation first, because the mainstream financial media has been getting this story wrong for months. They look at the silver chart, and they see a speculative rally. They see investors piling into precious metals because of interest rate cuts and economic uncertainty. That narrative is partially true, but it misses the structural earthquake occurring beneath the price. The silver market has been in deficit for 5 consecutive years. Not a minor imbalance, not a temporary disruption. A persistent structural shortage that has accumulated to approximately 800 million ounces since 2021. To put that number in context, annual global silver production is roughly 850 million ounces. The world has consumed almost an entire year of global production from existing inventories over the past half-decade, and there is no sign of this trend reversing. In 2025 alone, the projected deficit is somewhere between 118 and 187 million ounces, depending on which research firm you trust. Global supply is estimated at about 1.03 billion ounces. Global demand is tracking toward 1.15 billion ounces or more. That gap of over 100 million ounces has to come from somewhere. It comes from vaults, it comes from ETF holdings, it comes from industrial stockpiles, and eventually, when those run out, it comes from rationing, from price destruction, from the cold reality that there simply is not enough silver to go around at current prices. The Silver Institute, the industry's primary research body, published their annual survey earlier this year. The numbers confirmed what physical dealers have been warning about for months. Industrial silver demand hit a record 680.5 million ounces in 2024. That was the 4th consecutive year of record industrial consumption, and 2025 is on track to match or exceed it. Where is all this silver going? The answer is hiding in plain sight if you follow the supply chains of the 2 industries that will define the next 2 decades of human civilization: energy and transportation. Solar energy is consuming silver at a rate that would have seemed impossible just 5 years ago. Every solar panel manufactured today requires between 15 and 25 grams of silver. The metal is not a minor component. It is fundamental to the technology. Silver paste printed onto the surface of photovoltaic cells captures the electrons generated by sunlight and channels them through circuits to generate power. No other material on Earth matches silver's combination of electrical conductivity, thermal efficiency, and optical reflectivity for this application. According to BMO Capital Markets, silver demand from the solar sector alone is expected to reach 261 million ounces in 2025. That represents roughly 25% of total mine supply going to a single industry. And the solar sector is growing at double-digit rates annually, driven by government mandates, falling production costs, and the existential pressure of climate change. China alone added over 200 gigawatts of solar capacity in 2024. The European Union has committed to 700 gigawatts by 2030. The United States, despite political headwinds, continues to see massive private investment in solar infrastructure. Every one of those gigawatts requires millions of ounces of silver that will never return to the market. The silver does not get recycled when the panel wears out in 30 years. It stays dispersed in the silicon matrix, economically impossible to recover. Researchers at the University of New South Wales published a paper estimating that solar manufacturers will require over 20% of current annual silver supply by 2027. By 2050, solar panel production alone could consume 85 to 98% of current global silver reserves. Not annual production, total estimated global reserves. Let that sink in. But solar is only half of the demand story. The other half is moving at 70 miles per hour down the highway in a vehicle powered by electrons instead of gasoline. Electric vehicles are silver-intensive machines. A traditional internal combustion car uses between 15 and 28 grams of silver. It is in the switches, the sensors, the window defrosters, the circuit boards. A battery electric vehicle uses between 25 and 50 grams. The additional silver goes into battery management systems, power electronics, high-voltage cables, and charging infrastructure. The global electric vehicle market is projected to hit 20 million units in 2025. At an average of 30 grams per vehicle, that represents 600 metric tons of silver demand just from cars. By 2030, when EV penetration is expected to exceed 60% of new vehicle sales in major markets, automotive silver demand could triple. But there is a technology emerging from the research labs of Samsung, Toyota, and other battery manufacturers that could multiply these numbers by an order of magnitude. It is called the solid-state battery, and it solves the fundamental problem that has limited electric vehicle range and charging speed for 3 decades. Current lithium-ion batteries use liquid electrolytes. When charged rapidly or too frequently, lithium ions form needle-like crystals called dendrites. These dendrites pierce the separator between the battery's electrodes, causing short circuits and fires. This is why your electric car takes 45 minutes to charge. This is why EV battery packs lose capacity over time. This is why manufacturers are obsessed with finding a solution. Samsung SDI and other researchers discovered that a silver carbon composite layer applied to the battery's anode completely stops dendrite formation. It allows lithium ions to move freely while preventing the crystalline structures from developing. The result is a battery that can charge in 9 minutes, deliver 900 miles of range, and poses minimal fire risk. The catch is silver intensity. Early estimates from Samsung's published research suggest the silver loading could range from 5 to 10 grams per kilogram of anode material. For high-performance, long-range battery packs, that translates to potentially 200 to 500 grams of silver per vehicle. If solid-state battery technology achieves even 20% market penetration among EVs, automotive silver demand could jump from 90 million ounces annually to 200 or 300 million ounces. Where does that silver come from? Not from the mines, not from recycling, not from any source that currently exists in the supply chain. The supply side of this equation is where the mathematics become truly unsettling. Global silver mine production has been essentially flat for a decade, hovering around 830 to 850 million ounces annually. In 2025, production is expected to increase by roughly 2% to about 944 million ounces, driven by expansions in the United States, Peru, and India. But this modest growth masks a deeply troubling long-term trend. Over the forecast period from 2025 to 2030, global silver production is projected to decline at a compound annual rate of 0.9%. Output is expected to fall to approximately 901 million ounces by the end of the decade. The decline is concentrated in the countries that produce the majority of the world's silver. Mexico is the world's largest silver producer, responsible for about 200 million ounces annually. Production there is already falling, down 0.2% in 2025, as major mines like San Julian approach end of life. Over the next 5 years, Mexican output is projected to decline at a compound annual rate of 2.9%, dropping to around 200 million ounces by 2030. The country's restrictive policies on foreign mining investment, combined with regulatory uncertainty and planned mine closures, make this trajectory difficult to reverse. Peru, the third largest producer, faces similar challenges. Production is expected to decline at a 0.8% annual rate through 2030, as major operations like Cerro de Pasco and Andechagua wind down. Bolivia is looking at a 2.4% annual decline. Russia, facing international sanctions, remains a wild card with limited ability to increase exports. And then there's the fundamental constraint that no amount of price increase can solve quickly. You cannot print a silver mine. It takes 10 to 15 years to take a significant discovery from exploration to production. If someone found a massive deposit today, the first ounce of commercial production would not reach the market until 2035 or later. Meanwhile, the solar factories need silver now. The EV manufacturers need silver now. The electronics industry that puts silver in every smartphone, every circuit board, every 5G tower, needs silver now. The ore grades tell an even grimmer story. In 2005, a productive silver mine might yield 15 ounces per ton of rock. Today, that number has collapsed to 4 ounces per ton. Miners are digging through 4 times as much earth to extract the same amount of metal. That requires more diesel, more water, more labor, more capital. And it produces more environmental impact, more regulatory scrutiny, more community opposition. The vaults are empty, not metaphorically empty, actually empty. In the first 4 trading days of December 2025, over 47.6 million ounces of silver were claimed for physical delivery from COMEX warehouses. That represented more than 60% of total registered inventory. The pace of vault depletion was unprecedented in the history of the exchange. COMEX silver inventories have declined by over 73% since 2020. The registered category, metal that is immediately available for delivery against futures contracts, has fallen to levels that call into question the exchange's ability to function as a reliable price discovery mechanism. Lease rates for silver, the cost to borrow physical metal for short-term transactions, have spiked to levels not seen since the 1980 squeeze. In China, silver inventories on the Shanghai Futures Exchange have fallen to decade lows. Indian silver prices recently crossed 200,000 rupees per kilogram for the first time in history. In October, Kotak Mahindra Asset Management Company in India was forced to temporarily suspend new investments in its silver ETF product because physical silver had become too difficult to source. The paper market, where futures contracts trade at volumes that dwarf actual physical production, is increasingly detached from the reality of metal availability. Historically, fewer than 2% of precious metals futures contracts result in physical delivery. Traders roll their positions forward or settle in cash. But what happens when that 2% starts demanding delivery and the vaults cannot meet the request? We may be about to find out. The Federal Reserve just cut interest rates for the third time this year. On December 10th, the Federal Open Market Committee voted to lower the federal funds rate by 25 basis points, bringing it to a range of 3.5 to 3.75%. The vote was 9-3, reflecting unusual division among committee members about the appropriate path forward. Fed Chair Jerome Powell blamed sticky inflation on tariffs while acknowledging that downside risks to employment have risen. The decision was accompanied by an announcement that caught many analysts off guard. The Fed signaled it would resume purchasing Treasury securities to the tune of $40 billion monthly, starting immediately. Some commentators have characterized this as mini quantitative easing, a return to the balance sheet expansion that inflated asset prices for over a decade. For precious metals, this is jet fuel. Lower interest rates reduce the opportunity cost of holding non-yielding assets like gold and silver. When Treasury bonds pay 5%, investors sacrifice that income by holding metal. When rates fall toward 3% or below, with inflation still running hot, the calculus changes entirely. Real interest rates, the nominal rate minus inflation, turn negative. Holding cash becomes a guaranteed way to lose purchasing power. Holding gold and silver becomes a rational preservation strategy. Gold has responded accordingly, trading above $4,200 per ounce. Silver hit a new all-time high above $66 within hours of the Fed announcement. The gold-to-silver ratio, which measures how many ounces of silver it takes to buy 1 ounce of gold, has compressed from over 80 earlier in the year to around 64 today. Historically, during precious metals bull markets, this ratio tends to fall toward 40 or even 30 as silver outperforms gold on the upside. If the ratio drops to 50 with gold at $4,200, silver would trade at $84 per ounce. If it drops to 40, silver reaches $105. These are not fantasy scenarios. They are what the historical pattern suggests happens when investment demand combines with industrial scarcity in a coordinated monetary easing cycle. In early 2025, the United States Geological Survey added silver to the official list of critical minerals. This designation was not symbolic. It reflects a strategic recognition that silver supply chains are vulnerable to disruption, that domestic production is insufficient, and that national security interests depend on securing reliable access to this metal. The implications of this designation are still playing out. It means silver imports may receive preferential treatment in trade policy. It means domestic mining projects could qualify for expedited permitting and federal support. It means that when industrial consumers compete with investment demand for limited physical supply, the government may have tools to intervene on behalf of strategic sectors. We have seen this movie before with other critical minerals, rare earth elements, lithium, cobalt. When supply constraints threaten industries deemed essential to economic competitiveness or military capability, governments do not sit on the sidelines. They subsidize, they stockpile, they impose export restrictions on producing countries. They consider measures that would have been unthinkable in a free market framework. The question for silver holders is what happens when Tesla, Samsung, First Solar, and the Department of Defense are all competing for the same limited supply. What happens when procurement officers at these organizations are authorized to pay whatever is necessary to keep their production lines running? The answer is that retail investors are not competing on price. They are competing on timing. The metal you hold today is metal that these industrial giants cannot buy tomorrow. And every day the deficit persists, the value of what you already own increases relative to what can still be acquired. So where does silver go from here? The near-term consensus among precious metals analysts points to $70 as the next psychological resistance level. That number is being cited by Goldman Sachs, UBS, JP Morgan, and independent researchers across the industry. It represents roughly a 6% advance from current levels and could be reached within weeks if current momentum persists. But the more aggressive projections are considerably higher. Some analysts are targeting $100 per ounce by late 2026, based on the assumption that supply deficits will persist and industrial demand will continue growing at double-digit rates. A few voices on the fringe are discussing $140 to $150 if the gold to silver ratio compresses to historical lows and investment demand spikes alongside industrial consumption. The comparison that keeps surfacing in research notes is palladium in the early 2000s. When automotive manufacturers discovered that palladium worked better than platinum for gasoline catalytic converters, demand shifted almost overnight. Supply was concentrated in Russia and South Africa, both facing production constraints. The price went from $200 per ounce in 1998 to $1,100 by 2001. A few years later, during another shortage cycle, it reached $3,000. Silver's setup today has similar characteristics. Demand is shifting structurally higher due to technology adoption. Supply is constrained by geology and geopolitics. Inventory buffers are depleted. The price signal that should attract new production is only now beginning to reach levels that incentivize exploration and development. But those new supplies, even if discovered tomorrow, are a decade away from production. What fills the gap in the meantime? Only price. The price has to rise to a level that destroys discretionary demand. The price has to rise to a level that makes recycling economically attractive, even for dispersed low-concentration applications. The price has to rise to a level that signals to the market this resource is scarce, and rationing by price is the only allocation mechanism remaining. The volatility is not over. If anything, it is just beginning. When a commodity enters a structural shortage, the path higher is never a straight line. There will be corrections. There will be margin calls. There will be days when the price drops 5% on profit-taking, and headlines scream that the bubble has burst. Exchanges have tools to slow down rallies they perceive as destabilizing. Margin hikes, position limits, even suspension of trading in extreme cases. We have seen the CME Group deploy these tools before, most notably during the silver spike of 2011 when repeated margin increases forced leveraged speculators out of their positions and contributed to a multi-year bear market. But here is the difference between 2011 and today. In 2011, the rally was driven primarily by investment speculation. Paper demand chasing paper returns. There was no physical shortage. The vaults were full. When the speculative froth was removed, the price returned to equilibrium. Today, the vaults are empty. Industrial buyers are competing with investors for physical metal. Paper market manipulation can suppress the futures price temporarily, but it cannot create silver. It cannot fill orders that cannot be sourced. It cannot satisfy the procurement requirements of companies that need metal to manufacture products. The divergence between paper price and physical premium is already widening. If you tried to buy physical silver coins or bars today at $66 per ounce, you would find dealers quoting premiums of 10, 15, even 20% above spot. You would find delivery times stretching into weeks or months. You would find allocation notices and purchase limits. This is what a real shortage looks like. Not on a chart, on the ground, in the supply chain, in the frustration of buyers who have cash but cannot find metal. The $66 price tag is not the destination. It is a waypoint. When you step back and look at the full picture, the structural forces driving this market upward, the mathematics become almost inescapable. Industrial demand that cannot be curtailed because it is essential to technologies the world has committed to deploying. Investment demand accelerating as real interest rates turn negative and monetary policy grows increasingly accommodative. Supply constrained by geology, regulation, and a decade of underinvestment. Inventory depleted to levels that cannot buffer even temporary demand spikes. The question is not whether silver reaches $80 or $100 or some higher number that sounds implausible today. The question is, what happens to the industries that depend on affordable silver when the price gets there? What happens to the solar panel economics? What happens to the EV cost curve? What happens to the electronics supply chain that puts silver in every device you own? The answer is adaptation. Thrifting, where engineers reduce silver content per unit. Substitution, where alternative materials are tested and deployed despite performance trade-offs. Recycling infrastructure, built to recover silver from waste streams that were previously economically unviable. But all of these adaptations take time, years, decades. And in the meantime, the metal that exists has to go somewhere, has to be allocated to someone, has to be priced at a level that clears the market. $66 was not enough to clear this market. The deficit persists. The depletion continues. The structural forces remain unaddressed. The next move is higher. If this breakdown helped you understand what is actually happening in the silver market, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment with your price target. Share this video with someone who thinks precious metals are just another speculative trade. The story being written right now is one of the most significant commodity repricing events in decades. You want to be paying attention.